Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lorie Jones, owner of Fearless Financial Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
Good morning, Fearless Females. So I have something a little bit different today. I was asked to do a panel for Women of Influence events. So in Castle Rock, quarterly, they have these Women of Influence, and they'll bring a woman in to kind of give a talk about her job or something cool that she does or something she adds to the community. And I am really actually very proud to say that some of my Fearless Females were some of the women that they had brought in for their Women of Influence. But this particular one, they wanted a panel, and they wanted to talk about a woman's unique perspective on leadership. Like, a lot of times we are really unique in the way that we lead. We shape culture. We stay connected with our values, and our values are important to us. You'll find us most often in nonprofit organizations or leading companies in a way that feels sustainable and growth oriented. Sometimes we navigate complex roles with really intentional and thoughtful practices. And many leaders, and a lot of times even podcasts I found, will focus on what they do. Like, what is your job? I can't tell you the amount of times I've heard that in networking. What do you do? So we focus a little bit on what, but we don't focus more on why or how, like how you lead or why you lead the way that you do. And that is, my true passion with the Fearless Females podcast is tell me why, tell me how, tell me what you do that is so cool, the way that you've gotten to where you're at, and how you do that thing, rather than what is your job title and how do I make this gadget work. So today's questions are meant to spark just honest conversation around leadership, like journeys and like real issues that women face in business. We have 3 leaders with us. The first one is Gabriel. You will recognize her because she has been on the Fearless Females podcast before. She is the founder and CEO of Authentic Connections Counseling Center in Castle Rock, Colorado. She's got 20 years of experience as a licensed professional counselor. But the reason I love Dawn is because she has been through it. Ladies, like, she has run the gamut. She's done the burnout. She's said yes to everything in sight. And she's learned how to have sustainable growth and lead sustainably, aligned with your soul. So I like that authentic piece and that connections and just soul deep understanding. The next one is someone really cool that I've had a connection with over the last little while, is Brie Dilley. And I really hope I pronounced her last name right. She is executive director at Secor Cares. It's a nonprofit in Parker committed to eliminating food insecurity and suburban poverty. And I had the chance to go volunteer with Secor during my time in leadership Douglas County. It is an amazing program, and they just are doing such great things over there. If you go even one time and volunteer, you'll go back again and again and again, because it's that powerful. It really gives you a sense of being helpful. And she has worked both on program and development teams and has a heart for connecting donors and community members with the meaningful stories of Secor guests. If you do anything, talk to Brie. She just is so awesome. And the last is Toby Cates. She's a facilitator with over 35 years of experience in leadership and transformation across business, government, and community systems. She works with teams and people and organizations to figure out what's not working and try for areas of improvement. What I love about Toby is that she's a fellow Wyomingite. So she is horse ranch girl, and we grew up and went to the same college within years of each other. And so it feels like home when I'm talking to Kobe. And she's just got some great ideas about community and how to build and nurture community. So let's go ahead and get started with the panel. I originally recorded this live, but the sound wasn't good enough. So we went ahead and re-recorded the answers. So this was originally a panel discussion in a live setting, but I loved the thoughts and the experience that these ladies brought. And so here we are with our women of influence, women who inspire, women who mean business. Let's get started. So my first question is, I always start with kind of an idea of what is your superpower? Like, I'm always curious as what you're best at, better than anyone else. And everybody has one, even if they don't think they do. I am really good at like organizing chaos. If there's a chaotic situation or your accounts are all over the place, like I can organize the heck out of those things. So tell me, Brie, what is your superpower?
Yeah, I actually had to ask somebody on my team this because I was really struggling with what I would say. It feels a little bit like an interview where you have to brag on yourself or something. But I think she nailed it. She said that my superpower is really being able to see, the forest through the trees, being able to take a step back and see the big picture and not let my emotions or the panic of a certain situation, just not getting caught up in all of that. I can keep a really level head and stay focused on the bigger vision and the big picture.
I love that. That means that we can go ahead and count on you in those really chaotic situations or those emergency situations. You're going to be the one that's standing there going, okay, people, let's get organized, right?
Yes. And calm down. We're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And here's how.
I love that. You need those types of people on your team, and you need those types of people in your life too, don't you?
Yeah. I think my husband would maybe say that.
Yeah, that's great. So, Dawn, what is your superpower? Like, is there something that you are really good at? I know there is something that you're really good at, but what is it? Like, what is the thing that you do better than anyone else? If you were a superhero, it would be your power.
Yes, it's funny. I used to say networking, but what I really mean by that is connection with people. I feel like I'm really good at that, but on a deeper level, I'm good at having hard conversations. So not that I like them. I usually lose sleep over them and anxious over it, but I get just really able to hold space for the person's humanness and call them to a better place and just have honest, direct conversations.
Oh my gosh. I kind of want to call you whenever I have to have a really hard conversation now. I kind of want to be like, okay, Dawn, let's put a mask on and you can pretend to be me and have a hard conversation, because that is my anti-superpower. If I had one, that would be it.
Your kryptonite.
Exactly. So, Toby, what is your superpower?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think, when I think of superpower, just being a Gen Xer, right, I immediately went to, what's my comic book, right? Like if I were a comic book hero, what would that be? And for me, it's X-ray vision. And I say that it's not the kind that sees through walls, right? Mine is like, I see through people. I can see through armor, through the shadow, through the performance. And I just have this ability, right, to just see straight through to people's soul, whether it's people that I care for, serve, work with, mentor, lead. I can just see them of who they are and what they need. And it's what I do, right, as a leader, a speaker, a poet, and honestly, just as a human being. Because when we can see people and really see them through their humanity and not their perfection, everything changes. So it's X-ray vision.
Yeah, I love that idea because sometimes that's really all you need. I found in a lot of times when I'm working with team members that they just want you to understand who they are. They just want you to see who they are. And they will work harder and do more to move your organization forward and help you if you show them that you see them. There's
Yeah,
a little bit of gratitude, right?
100%. Yep, it's what I've learned, right? And it's exactly what you said. And it's taken me a lifetime, right, to understand this. But it's that people just want to be seen. They just want to witness, or they want someone to witness them. I think about Simon Sinek, right? He says, we all just need someone who's willing to sit in the mud with us, right? Just faults, strengths, whatever it is, just someone to just see us for who we are and be like, yep, that's okay. So I agree
Yeah,
with you. Yeah, 100%.
yeah, yeah. I love that. So, Brie, this question I'm really interested in. A lot of times as women, we are assertive, but as we, speak our mind or kind of come into a situation with this assertive manner, we risk being labeled as like bossy or cold or some other words that maybe aren't as nice. And those who are warm and friendly kind of get labeled as like lacking authority or maybe not being as good as at what they do. So what is your secret to staying confident without being like boxed in by labels?
Yeah, this is a hard one, I think, for women generally, not just in leadership, but pretty much in any environment. It feels like we are subject to the judgment of labels no matter what we do. So I think this is a constant work. I'm a work in progress on this, but my best piece of advice for anyone, including the times that I coach myself on this, is who's saying it, right? Like, who's the audience? Who's the person who's giving that critique or giving that label? Because we're not going to make everybody happy. And yes, certain opinions just should carry more weight than others, right? For me, I'm the most concerned in my professional environment for my team, the team that I lead. If they're the ones who are coming to me and saying that, I'm coming off in a particular way that is ruffling their feathers or something, that is going to carry a whole lot of weight. But if it's just some random person who, whose opinion doesn't really carry a lot of weight for me, then you got to let that one roll. I can't really speak to the being too soft because that is not criticism that I've received.
That's not my problem.
I'm much more, I get the B's, the rash, the bossy, the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
But yeah, to me, it's really like, who's the one who's giving me that criticism? Because
that's a really valid point. And I have had podcast guests who I thought said something very insightful. She said, I wouldn't take advice from people whose life I wouldn't want to live.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, I have people in my life who I really look up to their style of leadership, and I've brought them into my inner circle. And, whether it's a boss or a mentor or a friend or whatever, those people, those are the people I'm aiming at, right? Those are the people who I look at and I go, this is the kind of leader I want to be, which is one of the reasons I've brought them into my inner circle, because I want that to rub off on me. Those people's opinions carry a significant amount of weight compared to kind of the average person. So yeah, I think kind of leveling those things and stair-stepping how much weight you give to certain people is really important, because you're going to get the criticism. It's going to happen,
Yeah, and that's something that as women probably we need to understand is like you cannot make everybody happy. And even if you're a people pleaser, and as women we tend to be more people pleasing,
Mm-hmm.
the fact is you're going to get some amount of criticism, and that filter that you talked about, like where is it coming from? How much credence, how much weight do I want to give it? And I had another guest. It was so funny. She said, if someone asks me if I want advice and I don't want advice, she's like, I tell them no. And I sat on that for a minute and I'm like, oh, you're allowed to do that? You're allowed to tell them no, I don't want advice.
Yeah, that's so funny. Well, and I'll say too, just to kind of counteract myself a little bit or to give a different perspective, I think there's another tendency that happens for people, which is they swing the pendulum too far the other way. Mm-hmm. And that they go, well, I don't care what anybody thinks of me. And I think that's also dangerous. And it's an overcorrection. You should, I mean, I get we're in this moment now where women are finding themselves in more and more powerful positions. And it's really easy to just kind of to become a little bit of a bulldozer and to disregard other people's opinions and perspectives of you. But you can get into dangerous territory because there should be opinions and perspectives that you should care about, right? Those people who you've brought into your life to speak into those things, those people who you do want advice from, you should listen to them.
Yes.
Who work for you, who have a criticism against you, you should absolutely listen to their opinion. So I think that's why that weighting is important, because you don't want to get yourself, on either side of that spectrum of, I care about what every single person says, whatever they say about me or whatever they think about me. And you don't want to swing too far the other way of, well, I don't care what anybody has to say, because nobody likes those people. Yeah. Nobody wants to work with those people,
Yeah, a very valid point. And I think it's really important that you brought that up. So women are the default CEO of the family. They've got caregiving responsibilities. There's a whole bunch of emotional labor. We've got to support our kids and our husband. And we're somehow supposed to be like perfect at work too. It's that Barbie movie, that yes, it feels, I cry every time I hear that piece in Barbie, because that's what it feels like to me. Like I have to do everything, but I can't be too much, but I can't be too little, and I can't be too on, and I can't be too off. So in your like toughest seasons, when things were kind of running low, when your energy was just not quite there, what kept you grounded and what held? How did you find your balance or your purpose? Tell me a little bit about that, because I know you did it.
Well, I don't know if I would say I've done it, like did it and perfected it, but I failed a lot. But I would say, I think the biggest thing is realizing their balance is like a bad word. Like there's no balance. Like, so kind of releasing yourself from those expectations and allowing true, authentic you to show up and getting really real on that. And so for me, and I've had bouts of burnout in my life and bouts of it, but I think it's learning to know what rhythms work for me. And so it could be something, and I joke, I don't mean like manicures and pedicures and massages, and although massage is in there for me, it really is, because it's more of a slowing down of what my day, my week looks like. Getting some alone time on a hike is really important for me. Connecting with community is important. Connecting with God for me is important. And so learning my rhythms, and sometimes those rhythms are different, like in the holiday season, which we're coming up on soon. It is a little bit cramped and like it's hard, but knowing that, hey, what is most important, and kind of going after the value driven part of that. Mm-hmm. But mainly just really working on yourself internally and knowing balance is an illusion. And maybe look, what does rhythm look like for you, and how, because different rhythms of different seasons of your life.
So what you're telling me is that I don't need to worry about having 50% me time and 50% work time. What I need to worry about is, am I feeling off? Am I feeling overwhelmed? And then put those things into my schedule that bring me peace. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I had to do a deep dive. So I did kind of like a 360 view of myself and looked at like emotional, physical, spiritual. I'm probably forgetting something, but like looking all around and realizing what makes me come alive and feel peaceful, and then do a little bit of those things. Because of course we all want to be on a retreat. Let's take a retreat every month. Like that's just not
Yeah.
going to happen. So what are some little micro changes that will put in micro changes with value of what bring us life and that energy back?
Oh, that's a really good idea. So kind of like looking at the things that energize you and fill your bucket. That's what I kind of look at it like.
Yeah.
Like what fills my bucket? For me, honestly, it's like talking to clients. I love connecting. I love having that deep connection in those conversations with them. I just go home happy. And so if I find my energy getting lower, if I find that I'm just feeling overwhelmed, maybe put in a few more conversations with friends.
Yeah. Love that.
Okay. I can do that. Like the balance thing, I'm not so good at. I'm not gonna lie.
Nobody is. I don't know anyone who is.
So, Toby, every organization has those sacred cows. Like we've always done it this way. We're not going to do it differently. And there's always those people that kind of refuse to budge. So, as a leader, how do you handle that? And kind of as a follow-up question, like how do you handle it when it's a legacy thinking, like the moments when people ask a mom on a business trip who's watching her kids but never ask the dad the same thing? How do you change those outdated systems and mindsets?
Right. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. And I, working in state government for 16 years and having been a part of, what I do is I help agencies rebuild computer systems, right? The software. And, I work for an agency where our software was 40 years old. And I had staff members, right, who it's just the way we've always done it. And it was really difficult for people to see beyond what we've always done and how do we step out of that. And it was, we use the word statified, which I didn't like, but how do you help them say, hey, just because I've been doing it like this for the last 30 years, how can I embrace the new? And it really does come down to that systems thinking, right? It's about saying, you know what? We're going to set the what and why. And if you are clear on what you want to accomplish, and if you can be really passionate about your why, if you turn loose the how to the folks who have been rooted, right, in what is easy and what has become a part of their norm that they just want to hold on to, right? Because change is hard for everybody. And I think this is what you're getting at, right? Those sacred cows of, but this is who we are. How do we change that? And I think it's part of just saying, you know what? I want you to be a part of that how. And I have to, as a leader, I have to let go of that how and just say, I'm going to give you these negotiables and non-negotiables. I'm going to say, here's what we're reaching for, right? And I think when I think about, the things that I've learned from, right? When Kennedy said he was going to put someone on the moon, that was his ultimate goal. And it was for government in whole. So it didn't matter what branch you worked for. His idea was if everybody can focus, no matter what your role is, on putting a man on the moon, and if we just let people work towards that, it doesn't matter what level of government or where you're at, everybody has to make an improvement or a change or a dedication to achieving that goal. And so if you can say, hey, this is how we're coming together, and then be passionate about why, and then step out of the way and say, you know what, I'm going to let you be a part of the how. I'm not going to micromanage it. I'm not going to tell you, if that's right or wrong, because then there's pride in ownership, right? And then people will invest in that. And if you let them then be a part of the creativity, then that's what changes that. That's how people then feel empowered. That's how people, and I've seen it, I saw it in state government. When you finally turn loose of someone who was maybe adversarial or didn't want to do the work or seemed to be grumpy, right? That person here, like, maybe we need to ask them to leave the bus. When you finally just give them the power to do the things that they want within the guardrails that accomplishes your goal, and you step out of the way, it will change people's lives, not just for your organization, but for them personally, because everybody just wants to be a part of a bigger whole and feel a pride of ownership. And that also goes back to Dr. Deming, right? It's just creating these systems. And it's kind of what I talked about when I skipped ahead. It's if you build a system, right, that says, how do we set our what and why, empower the people, drive out the fear, right? Then it just starts to click, and people not only want to achieve your overall goal, but they want to be better people for themselves. And it just becomes this, hey, we're all human, and if we're here to support one another, this is going to be a great thing. And so I've seen it from the inside out. I've seen it from watching individuals change and become leaders because of it. I've seen it being able to see organizations and really tough things achieve their goals. So it really is just about getting out of the way and let people being a part of the how, and creating the systems that's going to help us when our humanity shows up, right? So that my weakness doesn't become the thing that sinks the ship. And if we can give everybody that support and drive out that fear, I think in my soul, right, that's those sacred cows that we just have to drive out the fear and appreciate everybody for their humanity.
Brie, nonprofit, which is the space that you're in, nonprofit leaders have been described as being basically emotional first responders. And I can see that in the position that you're in. You're carrying everyone's stories, you're carrying their heartbreaks, their hopes. Like, if you don't raise enough money, people literally don't get fed. I mean, that is an emotional weight that you have. How do you dodge the compassion fatigue or like empathy burnout? Like, what secret support systems keep you sane? And how do you keep running and in that space where literally sometimes your decisions are like life or death? I mean,
yeah, it's heavy. I'm not going to pretend that it's not. We're also in a moment now of snap on hold, government shutdown. So this year, especially, I mean, things have already been really hard for us. We're seeing the need outpace the resources. And then it feels like with, the current moment, that has just really exacerbated the problem. And, we're fielding so many calls right now from people who are desperate and afraid. And it's really hard to say, I'm so sorry, we can't right now. We're stuffed to the gills already. We don't have the funds to help everyone. I think there's a few things. I was actually just talking with someone on my team. I'm sure you've heard the Starfish Story of the little boy on the beach who's throwing, there's thousands of starfish on this beach, and he's throwing them back in one by one. And somebody walks up to him and says, what are you doing? You can't help them all. And he throws one in and he says, I helped that one. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really helpful perspective for anyone in this space to acknowledge that you're not going to, for us, right? We're not going to fix food insecurity. We're not going to solve poverty, but we can help. And there are so many stories of that, and we have to hold on to those. So I think that as an organization and as a leader, we kind of have a 3-prong approach for this. The first is really staying focused on our mission. Mm-hmm. That informs every single decision that we make. Our mission is about restoring hope and dignity and guiding people towards self-sufficiency. So when we have people who reach out and are looking for help, sometimes we have to say no because we don't have the resources, or sometimes it's not within our mission. It's not really within the work that we do. And that helps to make things really clear. And it also helps to just keep it top of mind. Every single meeting, our mission statement is on the agenda. We talk about it all the time about, what we're here for. And I think that helps to keep the wind in the sails a little bit, to keep that motivation and that mission focus. The second thing that we do is we celebrate wins. Like when something good happens, we celebrate. We have a cowbell in our office, and anytime something cool happens, whether it's a big donation hits, or we get an awesome email from one of our guests saying what we did for them, or whatever it is, whatever the win is, somebody grabs the cowbell and rings it, and we all just stop what we're doing. We come out of our office and we just have a moment to celebrate together. And then we also have a board, like a Post-it note board up in our offices for all of our wins for the year. So we can keep track of those big wins as they come in. So I think it's really important to celebrate. I mean, I'm somebody who it's like, we get through that one thing, that donation comes in, whatever, and then I'm on to the next, right? I'm very driven, and I'm like, great, we've checked that box. Let's keep going. But it's really important for everyone's soul to protect against that burnout, to really take a moment and actually celebrate. So we try to really lean into that as much as possible. And then the last thing I'll say is rest. I'm a really, really big proponent of time off. Take your time off. Take your PTO. We just moved our team to unlimited PTO for this exact reason. And I have regular conversations with my team like, hey, you've been working a lot lately. You did this thing on a Saturday, whatever, like go rest. I want people to really enjoy the work that they do and to not feel like they're constantly burning out, and to remember that life is bigger than work. And even though the work that we do here is incredibly important, the work that they have at home and with their families and their significant others, that's more important. And so they really need to take time to do that. And I try to lead that by example. So I don't email on the weekends. We don't do, if somebody sends me an email at 8:00 at night, I'm having a conversation with them the next day. And if they're not taking time off, we're going to have a conversation about that.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that you struck something really important there, which is lead by example, because I truly want that for my staff and my team as well. But I'm the most horrible example. I will check email on vacation. I'll check it overnight time. And it's really been important to me, that idea of rest. If I can't do it, it's like put on your own oxygen mask first, right? If I can't do it, then my team doesn't feel comfortable doing it. And I think that's really a key point. And something that honestly, since we chatted and you gave this answer, I've been putting a lot of thought into how I can adjust the way that I work so that if I can't stop working all hours of the day and night, at the very least, I should hide it better, right?
Yeah. Schedule send. I'm a big schedule sender.
Yeah.
In fact, I just came back from a trip, and I knew that the team needed to get their expense reports done or whatever. So I schedule sent an email before I left to hit their inboxes while I was gone. And I said in the email, I have schedule sent this. I'm not emailing you from vacation.
Yeah.
But I think I have a mentor who, he says, this isn't his quote, but he says it all the time. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Mm-hmm. You heard that one before? Yeah. And I'm a big believer in that. Like, you can talk about prioritizing rest and time off and work-life balance and all of that sort of stuff. But as a leader, if you're not doing it, I mean, that's what people are keying in on.
Oh yeah.
They're following that culture. So
Yeah. 100%.
It's cool that you're engaging with that and trying to figure that out for yourself.
Yeah. And it'll take me a little longer than it takes you, because I have been doing this for like 30 years and I'm really, really bad at it. But it's important to me to take that time off, because I'm not immune from burnout, just like everyone in your organization isn't immune from burnout. Like, if you don't take that time to rest, if you don't take that time to step back and to look at, what you're doing for your family and what you're doing in your life, and thus be supportive of the team underneath you doing those same sorts of step backs, you're going to have an entire team worth of burnt out people, starting with yourself. So
yeah,
it is so important.
And no one enjoys working with people who hate their situation.
Yes.
Who are exhausted and burned out and resentful. And, that's not a kind of culture that I think any of us really want to be a part of. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you just highlighted that idea of culture and it's starting with the top. I think that's a lesson that I can internalize better. I'm sure that it will resonate with others as well. So you help therapists build businesses that don't burn them out, which sounds absolutely magical if you ask me. But even the most grounded leaders kind of get in the, you're running a business. You've got like the my values versus my bank account moments. Tell us about one of yours, maybe a hire gone sideways or a scale up that made you sort of question your sanity. Like, what's a tough call that tested your alignment?
Yeah, I feel like there's so many of those. And I notice when I am feeling more anxious or fear-based, it usually has to do with money. I will make a quicker decision and it's probably not the best. So I have learned to sleep on it and slow down, because I sometimes will, for example, I'll hire a clinician that I didn't sleep on it and I didn't do the deeper questions and the deeper, like, does this fit our culture? Does this fit the team, like, model that we have? And we are very relationally based in our, in my team, and we're very team culture. And so sometimes I'll push a decision because it fits maybe financially versus my culture, and that never works out.
Yeah.
They usually end up leaving, or, it just doesn't work out. And so that's one example. So I've learned to, not make decisions in the height of my fear or anxiety.
Yeah. I think that's kind of important, because like the idea of that fear-based decision making, it comes into all different aspects. It just isn't, in the mental health. You've got businesses, you've got kids, you've got personal realm, you've got all sorts of different places. And if you're making those decisions based out of fear at your gut level, sometimes they align with what it actually you end up doing, but most of the time it ends up being something you have to reverse later, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I would say, I don't want it to get confused with having to make quick decisions as like a CEO or business owner. You sometimes have to make quick decisions and go on your gut. It's really discerning, like, where you're at internally, at least for me. And so, making those, and there's sometimes they have worked out and it's okay, but it's the stress level that it brings with it is way more than if I would have just like slept on it and like waited till my emotions calm down to make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. I do that sometimes even in my own business, where I'll write an email and then I'll sleep overnight before I send it out.
Love that. Yes. I also made a rule, like, never to send an email outside of business hours, because I'm usually like tired or burned out or stressed, and they're never good. Like, I've done it before where they have, and I read it the next day and I'm like, what was that?
Yeah. So, and that's interesting. Like, when I was a little kid, my parents would make all these rules and I'd spend half my time yelling about their rules. And now I'm making rules for myself. I'm like, you can't do this, Lorie. Yeah. And you have to do it this way. That sort
Boundaries
of thing.
are good.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked a lot about systems, and systems are supposed to make things run smoother, like not turn us into emotionally stable robots, right?
Right.
So how do you, honestly, a lot of times systems is a bad word, like they feel like it gets rid of all the humanity. And I love systems. I think it's the best thing ever in the whole wide world because it creates this structure and this framework where everybody's kind of working towards the same thing. So how do you keep the human element alive when your systems start feeling like too robotic?
So that's interesting, right? Because there is that technical systems definition, right? And then when you think in systems, if you think of there's all these different parts and pieces that have to work together to accomplish the overall goal. So I think very differently. To me, systems isn't the robot or the code or the language or those, compartmentalized pieces that go together. When you think of we all work in our own different pieces, and how do we smooth out the outsides of our pieces so that they can work better together? It's just those boundaries, right? And how does my boundary become permeable so I can work with somebody else's boundary? And so in my mind, when I think of systems, it's how do we all work together better? It's not compartmentalized. It really is about the human nature of, hey, I have strengths, but I also have weaknesses. And so how can my strengths marry up and partner with somebody else's, maybe weaknesses? Or how can my weaknesses marry up so someone else's strengths? So how can we tie all this together in a fluid motion so that we're working together for the same goal? And it's not just on me being independent. I think this is a very Western culture thing, right? Where it's all about independence and striving to get to the top. And we think about ourselves in isolation. But if you bring that back down and say, hey, we're better as a team together, and how can we merge all of our different pieces in a way that says, we're going to set our negotiables and our non-negotiables in a way that I get to be a part of the bigger whole. And if I can work with you, and if your team has a boundary that's permeable to me being able to work with you, right? That's what sets us free. And I think it really is the upper leadership just getting out of the way, right? And so I think it's hard for me to explain because I think of systems. That's interesting that you say that because I think of systems so differently. I think of it as how we all work together and merge versus that non-human part. So in my mind, it is all about humanity and how we work together to get our strengths all aligned so that we can do something better. And I feel like I'm not answering but that's a hard question, right?
It is. It is a hard question. I love the way you put that. It kind of feels more like a team. Like, how do we work together so that everybody wins? How do we interact and collaborate? I just kept thinking of those squishy balls. When they squish the squishy balls together, it looks like you can hardly see where one ends and another one begins, Whereas if you have these like compartments or these traditional system structures that I think of, they're all hard-edged and square and they don't mesh well. But I love your concept of like kind of systems are more like teams, like meshing
fluid
together and trying, fluid.
Yeah, agile. And I think the part that I failed to recognize is you have to drive out fear, which means you're not afraid of failure. So you allow these individuals in these different compartments to come together, and you set those negotiables and non-negotiables so that they can fail, because failure is how we learn. And so that's the system, right? The system is the what and the why, turn loose the how, and then you set up these increments. It really is agile philosophy of letting people just figure it out. But you figure it out in a way that, hey, if I have this idea and we come together and we try to accomplish this goal, but it fails, that's okay because it's not going to sink the ship. But we're going to learn from that, right? And it's how we as humans learn. We make mistakes, and that's how we learn. And so within any organization, you have to be able to tolerate some level of failure because that's how we learn. And if you allow people to fail, they will naturally step up and then they'll learn from those and they will build something better. And so I think that's the part where it's not about perfection, right? It's about being very clear on what it is you want to accomplish and trusting, driving out the fear so people can fail, but setting up a regular system where it's just these increments of, okay, we learned this, let's go this way, not that way. And it's the human letting people do that together and having that investment, right? It's that ownership, or that just knowing that you can do that is what sparks creativity and allows people to really do the things that are amazing, that changes, whatever it is you're trying to change, whatever goal you're trying to reach. So
Yeah,
yeah,
world
it's
changing.
a
Yeah,
big concept.
pivoting, like just bigger than yourself. Yeah, I
Right.
think that's cool. That's a really interesting way of looking at that concept, and something that perfectionism stands in the way of. Like if you are always trying to never make a mistake, a lot of times you stay inside the confines of the box, and you don't think outside in that fluid space and help as a team to make something even better. So I like that. I think that's a really cool way of looking at things. Tell me, Brie, if you could talk to yourself at a younger age, if you could tell your a mentee, someone who's younger than you, who's kind of going down this same path, if you could give her a piece of advice, what would you say?
I've heard this recently, and it's my new mantra. I have always been a perfectionist. I still struggle with it. And, I want to get it right. And I want to get it right the first time. I'd like to, when I get a performance evaluation, I'd like it to be a 10 out of 10 across the board. No notes. That's what I'm aiming for. I have a professor in grad school who can attest to this, because I literally went to his house to make him explain to me why he gave me a B on a paper.
Oh my gosh, you sound so much like me.
Yeah, no, I'm not proud of that.
Yeah.
But so for me, regret has always been a source of shame, because it means that I was imperfect. But I heard someone say recently that regret is a sign you've grown. And that was such a world-shifting phrase.
Mm-hmm.
That, because I also, in my perfectionism, right, I don't want to be stagnant either.
Yeah.
I want to continue to improve and to grow. I don't know if you're an Enneagram person, but I'm a 1. And so the whole, what it means to be a 1 is you're always like looking for how to make something better. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. It just kind of reframed perfectionism in that way for me, that, I actually should be seeking out regret in my life, because that means that I've grown, that I'm better, that I have a different, more evolved, mature perspective now than I did then. So that I would tell anyone, I will tell anyone. I think it's a really great reframe for those of us who struggle with perfectionism.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hard to do in practice. Really hard. I have to admit that when I'm going through those learning experiences, I'm not going to call them failure, but learning experiences, I'm always like, oh, I don't like this. Like, let's get through it as quickly as possible, rather than sitting in it and kind of going, okay, doing a reframe. Oh, good. This is a way I've learned. I'm not going to do this again the same way. If I make a mistake, it'll be a different one, maybe a better one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a sign of growth. That's all, you know? Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Brie. I appreciate your time with us today.
Thank you, Lorie. Appreciate it. So,
Dawn, if you could go back and talk to your younger self, talk to yourself kind of at the beginning of your journey, what advice would you give you?
Yeah, so this might come out of left field, but I really like to do an exercise of self-compassion, because I think my personality is type A, perfectionistic, too hard on themselves, at least internally. It probably, people don't realize that externally for me, but because I'm so like relational, but internally I'm really hard on myself. So I do this thing called the self-compassion exercise where you sit with open hands, and I would tell everyone listening to do this as well. And you name something you're struggling with, like an emotion. Like for me, like we just talked about fear. This is a moment of fear. Fear is a part of life. I am not alone in this fear. And then I want everyone to put their hands over their hearts and say, may I have some self-compassion, or may I be kind in this moment. So that is what I would say to my younger self. Have her do that.
I love that. And I think the physical act of actually holding out your hands and actually crossing your heart allows you to be present and really do it, not just get caught up in your mind running and going in all different directions.
Yeah, it slows down your nervous system and it helps you slow down the emotion. And also, when we have our hands open, we're not holding tight to that thing that we're mentioning. It's open, like open hands. We're releasing it.
That's cool. I wonder how that works. I'm going to try it, Dawn. I'm going to see if it works.
Yeah.
So, because I have noticed that even at a young age, like with my daughters, but you're probably the meanest to yourself, meaner to yourself than you are to anyone else. And what an idea, what a practice of having that compassion and allowing yourself to feel compassionate towards yourself. Not only am I gonna try it, but I'm gonna tell other people to try it too. So there you go. You made change.
I need it today, not my younger self. Today needs it.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, Toby, my last question is, if you could mentor your younger self, if you could go back and talk to you when you started out, what would you tell yourself? What was the one thing you would say?
It's so hard, right? Because there's just so much you don't know as your younger self. But I think for me, the biggest thing that I've had to unwire, right? I've had successes and I've done amazing things, and I can look back over my professional career and be like, this is amazing. But then I can also look at my personal side and be like, there's some wanting, and how did that happen? And I think it really is just about finding a way to love yourself, right? And to give yourself some space and grace to just be who you are. And it kind of goes back to where I started with all of this. Recognizing that we're all human and our humanity is going to show up, and we're miracles on this earth, right? And so if you can just value yourself and set out to have that love affair with yourself, it will set you free, right? To be present and not to perform, and to find your true core. And it's hard. And even if I heard this as my younger self, I don't know that I would get it. But it really is just to be okay with who you are, and just to love you no matter what, right? No matter what your failures are, no matter what you think, no matter who you're trying to impress, whatever that is, because at the end of the day, right, we're going to lose everything we love, but the one person we're going to be with from the moment we were born till the moment we die is ourselves. And if we can just find that presence and love ourselves and give ourselves that grace and space, it's amazing what you can do as a leader to give others that grace and space. But I think that's what I have spent 52 years of unraveling is I really am a good soul and I love me. And that would have saved me a lot of heartache, I think, had I understood that as a younger self. I just don't know that we can. Part of it's just kind of that experience of life. But that's it. Just love you for you, because we're all miracles here.
I love it, though, Toby, that you got there. Like, there are still things that I'm not very nice to myself about. Like, I say, not nice things about my hair some days, or certain traits that I have. I'm really hard on myself about that. So I don't think I've gotten to where I fully embrace and love, those pieces of me. And I'm starting to love some pieces of me, but I do think that is kind of a lifelong goal. And some of us don't ever quite get there.
Yeah.
Right?
It's hard. And I just recently came upon a book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse.
Oh, I love that one. I send it to all of my clients. Right? I literally do.
But I think the thing, so my son and I, my son that's 11, my youngest, reread it together. And he loved the part about just eat cake, right? Let's just eat cake. He loved the mole. And mine was, to love. And I think as women, I think this kind of sums up, what we were all brought together, right? Women of influence and where we've gotten in leadership. We as women are so good at doing for others. We're so good at loving, and we're so good at sacrificing because that's our innate nature, right? But the thing that stuck out for me is, when the boy says, I know my purpose, right, is to love. And the horse comes back in his wisdom and says, and to receive. And I think that's part of what I was just talking about is we have to receive love, which means we have to accept ourselves for who we are. And that's where I'm really starting to learn is how do I receive that? Because I didn't think I was good enough to do that. I can give it all day long, but to truly receive love, and if you receive it first, you're almost better at giving it. And I think that's true as leaders, right? If you can receive and understand what's happening from your staff, from the closest to the work, and hear it, not as a defense, but as hey, these are the things that we really need to touch. If you can receive anything first, then you can pour out. And I just think as a woman, I've been so good at pouring out and loving first. I've been numb to receiving, and it takes holy smokes. That's a challenge for me, and I have to consciously really make myself be like, oh yes, I accept that. That's fine. I can do that. So I think women leaders, it's an interesting thing for us. But that book, in my opinion, right, kind of sums up home isn't a place. It's who we are and how we love and how we receive.
Oh, I love that you brought that up, and definitely recommend reading it. Thank you so much, Toby, for being with us today and for sharing your insights. I've appreciated it.
Yeah, thank you, Lorie. I appreciate it too.